everybody. Woo! Take a deep breath. There's a lot happening in the world. I feel like I say that every week, and it's more true every week I say it. Woo! Oh man, I know. It is hard to protect our hope, as our brother Brian Stevenson says, and I keep singing that song. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me, and the world can't take it away. So we gotta protect our hope and our joy. One of my mentors said, "If we've stopped laughing, then the devil has already won." So there's a lot not to laugh at, but we also gotta realize that we know how this story ends, and love wins, and the tomb is empty, but we are in the thick of the darkness right now. And so I'm glad that you can tune in. If you're here every week, you're very welcome. And if you're here for the first time, you're especially welcome. That's what our priest in Camden used to say, Michael Dole. You're very especially welcome if you're here every week or here just because you flipping the channels or something. But I use this as an excuse to hang out with people that keep my hope and joy alive, that keep us organizing. As our brother Otis Moss says, punching holes in the darkness. We gotta let the light shine through, and it is an amazing time to be alive right now. And my brother, my friend, I'm gonna call him the Reverend Cody Deese, is with us. He is a great brother down now, pastoring at Vinings Lake down in Georgia. I've been there many times, and but has a just a incredible story. And I know you're not a self-promoter, bro, but got it right here. Got a new book out that is just wonderful. Tells a lot of that story, discovering your internal universe. So this ain't book club right now. It's Cody Deese time, but we're going to talk about it a little bit. But also, you might have seen, like, I told him I know it's algorithms and stuff, but he pops up on my phone all the time because he said something real smart and witty and beautiful that's resonated in the hearts of folks. There's a lot of little viral clips of Cody. But man, good to see you, brother. Good to see you.
Oh, it's so good to be here with you, Shane. Let me say straight from the top, thank you. Thank Red Letter Christians. Thank Tony Kampala. Thank you all for the work that you do as a pastor in the Bible Belt, in the South, in just 15 minutes north of Atlanta. The work that you people do is inspiring to people like me that are just practitioners. We're in the local community doing the work, and I'm just grateful for all that you all do. So, straight up, let's just give a little bit of gratitude for the work you do.
Well, straight up, one of the things I say often that is true is we say, Red Letter Christians is a web of subversive friends that love Jesus and care about justice. And so I really do think that. And I'm grateful for you. I think part of what we can take heart in right now is that we're not alone
Mm.
in our resistance and our exhaustion with the everyday horrors we see, and so sometimes we just, as Peter Morin of the Catholic Worker Movement, he's a little wild prophet himself, and they used to say he was crazy. And he said, if I'm crazy, it's because I refuse to be crazy the way that this world has gone crazy. So that's a beautiful word. And I wanted to start by, I mean, there's a lot we're going to give people a little backdrop in a minute, of your upbringing, because I think that's important, where we come from, especially for you. So, but you've been teaching on the prophets right now, and I think one of the things I want us to talk about is the, I don't want to say it's a balance, it's an integration or a rising up to the occasion right now between the pastoral and the prophetic. We need both right now. And you're pastoring a community during this regime of of horror that we're seeing, but we're also like it's discipleship, and you're walking people through. You're seeing a lot of new life in your church. So let's start talking about what it's like to be a pastor right now, man. We get to the flipping of the tables in a
Well,
minute, but yeah, how do you? You're loving people into
Oh
life
my
right now.
goodness. Okay, well, there's a lot to say about this, but you're right. There's an integration of like the prophetic and the pastoral, and I certainly feel both sides of it. But here's the thing: I started pastoring in 2015, August of 2015. I became lead pastor. Well, the first Trump administration, came in. What was it? January of 2016, I believe. So
Yeah.
my entire time of pastoring has been 2 terms of this Trump administration, and we'll get into all that kind of stuff later at some point if we have time. But after the first administration came in, his first term, we lost everybody. So, like 600 plus members walked out the door. Our church completely died. We went from, at one point, 600 to 700 people to our lowest was 12 people. So that will kind of tell you. And you, by the way, came around during that time. We did the
I
gun thing.
preached. I preached that thing. I preached to you 12 disciples, man. It was a good time.
That's
No,
right.
it's
That's
beautiful,
right.
man. It's
So,
beautiful.
but check
Yeah.
this out, and this is what's so amazing. So, a lot transpired during, from that first term to where we are now. But here's to give you a little bit of snapshot, and then we don't measure this way, Shane. Like
Yeah.
we got all new metrics. When the whole system dies, you learn new metrics pretty quickly.
Oh, come on.
Uh, but but it is a metric. It's just not the metric for us, and that is this. Just yesterday, here's a perfect example, and this has been pretty consistent for the last 3 months. But like no, there's no more parking places, nowhere to park. We
Mm,
we don't have any more space in our building. I mean, the place is completely jam packed, and it is a night and day difference from the first term to the second term. And a part of that, there are many reasons, but a part of that is people are showing up, and many of them are showing up from other spaces that are going, listen, we were at such and such church for years, but the pastor refuses to acknowledge what is happening right now.
mm,
And they're saying that because he's not saying something, she's not saying something, they are saying something, and that's all they
mm,
needed to hear. And
mm,
so you have a whole bunch of people showing up going, what's happening in the world right now is not right. And we need churches, pastors, spiritual collectives, communities speaking up about this at the local level. And
mm.
so that's a lot of what we're doing. I mean, there's an interesting thing happening because you have a lot of people that are showing up in our spaces. And Shane, honestly, it is messy. Like
Mm,
as chaotic as the external world is right now, so internal relationships, family structures, lots of people asking questions about, well, what do I do right now navigating this complex relationship I have with my MAGA parents? And
yeah.
so we're working through, and there's no one set way, right? There's a couple things that we help navigate people with. First is boundaries. Boundaries is not betrayal. James Baldwin, or it's attributed to James Baldwin, he said, this is one of my favorite quotes from him. We can disagree and still love each other unless your disagreement is rooted in my oppression and
Mm,
denial of my humanity and right to
mm,
exist. And
mm,
so, one of the things that we talk about, we try to help people navigate these complex relationships with parents, and sometimes it's the opposite. It's parents with kids that are MAGA folks. And we just say no one should be asked to share a table with someone who denies their right to exist.
mm,
And we do our best as a church to not center the comfort of the powerful over the safety of the vulnerable. And we wouldn't
mm,
expect other people to do that either. So for some people, when you talk about this, navigating these relationships, it's like, hey, you need to learn boundaries. There are lots of people in our collective right now that are saying, yeah, I've had to set up some firm boundaries with people around me that continue to support the egregious actions of this administration.
mm,
Um, and then there are others
mm,
that are at different social intersections that have energy and capability and capacity to do this, but they don't set up real strict boundaries. They keep blowing up the family text feed. You know what I'm saying?
mm. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they are the ones that I say are disrupting the narrative, right? So,
Mm,
like, a lot of MAGA folks, especially these are what people in our collective tell me all the time, but a lot of them say, man, my parents are just 24 hours a day just consuming right wing media, be it
mm,
Newsmax, Fox News, whatever. And, here's what we know about right wing media. Here's what we know about Fox News is that it has a narrative, and that narrative is anyone who challenges our narrative is dangerous, radical, or as Trump says, an enemy from within.
mm,
And what's happening is these are sons and daughters who were raised by these parents, and they know their sons and daughters, and they show up going, "Hey, I know Fox News keeps telling you that because we're this way or don't support this administration that we're dangerous, but you know me. You know
Mm.
my heart. I'm a product of you. You raised me." And what it's doing, Shane, is their very presence is like distorting the media caricature that they're being told. And
Yeah.
it's creating like a cognitive dissonance in these parents that are, completely blinded in following this administration. And it is an explosion happening. And so
Yeah.
so we're kind of navigating that. Then you have the other side, which is like right now, we're walking through an entire series called A Creative Resistance, and we're
Ooh.
looking at the
Mm.
symbolic actions of all the prophets. So
Yeah.
Isaiah, naked for 3 years on the town square.
I mean, naked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
think about Jeremiah takes the clay jars and shatters them. I mean, what is that? That's like in some ways, it's the prophet going, here's the thing. There are some systems that need reforming, and there are some systems that need to be shattered.
Mm.
And so we're walking through Ezekiel, 100 and something days on his side, 300 and something days on the other side. And then he
Cooking
goes
on
all
the
the way
poop,
down.
right? Cooking on the
Oh,
poop. Yeah, to expose. I told a group the other day, cooking on poop to expose the poop of the
that's it.
world around
That's
them.
it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, the biblical narrative's filled with it, Shane. I mean, the days we're in right now, I mean, the Bible, like it is clearly speaking and giving us creativity in this moment
yes.
we are living in. And that's why I'm like, man, it sounds so wild, but I've been through so much in my life, Shane, and come out of the Southern Baptist world, but
Mm.
and ran all the way to the other side, hit a wall that looked just like the wall that I came from on the other fundamentalist side.
Yes.
Find myself now at 44 years old going, I swear I love the Bible more than I ever have. I mean, for years growing up, like the book of Revelation was like so confusing and strange and cause so much anxiety, which is, by the way, why I wrote a lot in here. I talk about anxiety because, I mean, it was all about you're going to get sucked up and raptured out of here, and the end of the world is coming. And you even hear some of that language now, like
Yeah.
Armageddon and end time prophecy, and we need violence to usher it in, which I'll just pause right there and say any end times theology that needs violence to usher it in is the definition of antichrist. Like,
Yeah.
like
Come on, man.
that is
Yep.
antichrist. And but what I'm learning, Shane, is like the book of Revelation. I mean, it is for the moment right now.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
it is apocalyptic in the truest sense of the word, in unveiling and
Yeah.
exposing. And it's not just a revelation of Jesus. It certainly is that, but it is a revelation of how
Yes.
religion got in bed with empire.
Come on.
And John is exposing that, going, hey, and this is why John keeps
I
repeating
mean, the brother didn't get exiled for nothing. You know what I mean?
100%. And he keeps repeating this, come out from among it. Like he's
Yes.
saying, do not get in bed with empire. It will not end well for the church and for the empire. And so like all these stories,
Bishop
yeah,
Barber, he said, got a lot of these evangelical pastors that are just absolutely obsessed with who's sleeping with who, but they don't realize they already in bed with Caesar. Oh, come on. Woo. Yeah. Eh.
you know what? I haven't met him, but I want to meet him. So
Oh
much respect
man.
for him.
Yeah. Well, okay. So if y'all are just listening in, it is pure fire today because we got Cody Deese on here as my guest and talking about pastoring and the intersection or the union between the pastoral and the prophetic. We're going to get back to that, but I think it is really helpful for folks to have a little of your backdrop. You talk about it in your preaching and your writing. It gives us a little grace and patience with other folks, I think, who are working out their salvation with fear and trembling when we realize that we're a work in progress. And you coming out of the Southern Baptist world and, Liberty University and these spaces, um, in a lot of ways, it gives a certain credibility towards your love for the Bible and you're wrestling through these things. You weren't just born some flower child or something. You've kind of spit out the bones, but held on to Jesus. And so, talk a little bit about that world that shaped you, bro.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So my father was a pastor. He was a Southern Baptist pastor. We moved around quite a bit, mainly in the South. And my dad was very much involved in like the Tennessee Baptist Convention and the Southern Baptist world. And because of that, I followed in my father's footsteps and gave my first sermon at 16 and kept preaching ever since then.
Hmm.
And when I finished high school, I went to a very conservative preaching school in Hendersonville, North Carolina, and um, and then my folks were like, "Well, there's only one place for you to go because it's the only place all evangelical Christians go, and we're going to take care of it if you go there." And it's called Liberty University. So I went, Shane, and got my
It was all for the snowboarding hill that you can snowboard in the summer months, I think is why you went there, wasn't it? Yep.
So I went to Liberty, got my undergrad, and when I was there, it was Jerry Falwell, the leader of the moral majority, and finished there. And then I just started traveling for 9 years. I was in the Baptist world, speaking at a lot of student conferences and things like that. And then eventually, Shane, I just started dying inside. And honestly, when I look back now, I was asking questions from an early age. 16 years old, I started asking questions, and they never stopped coming. And I started just keep following the nudges, kept following the questions, and eventually there was a push pull, is what I talk about. Um, I started getting pushed out of that evangelical world because I was just asking some questions and saying some things that that particular system was like, yeah, you can't say that here. And so if you're going to say that, you can't be here. And so it's kind of pushed out.
Were some of those theological or were they social, concern for immigrants and the poor? Like, what I mean, I'm sure it was a little bit of everything, but give a couple of
Well,
concrete.
you're right on the money. I mean, some of it was I was leaning more into because when I say push pull, I was being pulled out too. And part of the situation you're involved in. All right, now you may not know this, but somebody handed me some books along the way because I was asking questions, and they're like, "Oh, hey, you know." Because I felt like I was the only human asking those questions. Because when you're within a system like the evangelical system, you don't know another world's out there. You don't know it. And so someone heard me asking questions, and I still don't know who it is, but they handed me a couple books and said, read these guys because they're asking the same questions and they've walked right out of the system that you've come from. And one of those, by the way, one of the first books was Adventures in Missing the Point by
Yep.
Brian McLaren and Tony Campolo. And so
Hmm.
I picked that book up, Shane, and the first section was The Sinner's Prayer is Not in the Bible. And I was like, oh man, this is a game changer, like a game changer for me because, in the evangelical world, that was all I was doing. Then that's part of what answering your question. They were like, listen, we need you to get up and we need you to manipulate some students and we need to get them down here and get them born again. Like that's their metric, right? We need 300 students to come forward and get saved. But a part of what I was learning was I was being taken. I mean pulled into a greater understanding of who God is. And a part of that was also your work. Someone handed me one of your first books. And I remember getting it and reading it and being so floored, like, yes, of course, this is what Jesus was talking about. And so, to your point, they wanted me to talk about like an ethereal heaven up in the clouds, and it was just a simple, basic transaction. You come
Mm,
forward, say a prayer, and then give your life to Jesus, and that's it. I was like, well, great, but also, does Jesus not care about bodies?
mm, mm,
Does the gospel say nothing about anything that's happening with the marginalized, the outcast, the alone, the immigrants, the foreigner? And so I kept trying to lean that direction, and for them they would just brush it off like that's political activism. We don't do politics here. Which now looking back, you realize that's one of the most privileged thing anybody can say. Don't be political. Well, here's what I've learned, Shane. There's no such thing as not being political.
mm,
Everything we say and do either affirms or denies the status quo that is right now.
mm. Say it.
Yeah,
Woo.
so that's a part of what happened. And to your point, I was just like, hey, I don't think we have to make a choice here. I think it's an integration of all of it. And I think we need to start. That's
False binary, we might call that.
that's
Yep.
right. That's right. And so that's part of what led me out. And I eventually kind of walked out to push pull. And when I got out of there in 2015, about that time, the place that I helped a friend of mine start a church, they said, "Hey, would you be our lead pastor?" And I said, "Yes." And then off we were, and we started in 2015, and the next thing I know, Shane, the church shrunk from 600-700 people to 12 people. So I always tell people
Woo!
if you wanted any conference leader that could tell you how to shrink a church, I was your man. All right.
Well, it did make me think of that. Campolo had a story where, these two pastors are talking at a conference. One of them, mega church pastor, like, yeah, when I got there, that thing was 50 people. I preached there for 3 years and we got almost 5,000. The other dude's like, man, I got there. We had hundreds of people. I preached that church down to 10.
Oh my goodness.
So
Oh my goodness.
yeah, but I think, you look at we obviously want so many folks to fall in love with Jesus and we want to see lives transformed. I even tell folks like I want to see a transformed Donald Trump, that cares about people that is reoriented to violence and wealth and all that stuff because of Jesus. And I'm working on my own heart, so I'm trying not to judge too much, but I do, know the tree is known by its fruit. So we're praying for all that. But it is wild how we separate things that are never meant to be separated and lose a whole part of the gospel. And one of those little viral clips that popped up on my phone was you talking about that. I think it was both the personal salvation and the social transformation, but also about how um, we don't meddle into politics. And you should do a little riff here, man, because I think folks have resonated with that idea that we don't get involved in politics unless it's a certain kind of politics, right?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting. Don't talk about politics is ultimately a harmful notion meant to perpetuate power structures.
Yes.
And anyone that I have ever met, now I'm a pastor, 44 years old, white male living in the South. Now this isn't a stretch. Every single person that has said to me, "Pastor, stop being so political." First of all, they have something in common. They're all white. Second, they all come from very privileged places.
Mm.
And I think we need to take note of that because there are some people who don't have the luxury to say don't be political because their
Mm.
very lives are at stake.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's imperative for us to right now in this moment continue to speak out because here's the thing. There are so many that are showing up on our front doorstep. And I'm telling you, they can't afford groceries. They can't afford health care. They're looking at a leader who's gaslighting them, who's saying the economy is better than it's ever been. And these are people, and Shane, I know you see them, but they're struggling. They show up
Yeah.
saying we're struggling. We can't afford our bills. We can't afford rent. We can't afford our lives right now. And this is very real at a local practical level. So as a leader, I'm seeing what's coming from the top, and it is not matching what's happening in real time.
Yeah. Yeah, and even when we think, I get why a lot of people get tired of politics, and I get exhausted by the two-party system and the self-righteousness and the moral superiority that's out. Kind of knows no bounds. But also, let's just talk about loving our neighbor. You can't ignore the things that are crushing their lives. And I think of Dr. King too, how he navigated this so well and believed in personal, transformation and social transformation. And, he said, a law can't make a man love me, but it can make it harder for a man to kill me. And he believed that, to love our neighbor means we got to make sure other people have the same rights and access to education and they can swim in the same swimming pools. We don't discriminate people and see people as a little less valuable
Yeah.
as human beings or even not as human beings as three-fifths of human being. All that stuff, right? That's a part of like the seeking the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven. It's a part of loving our neighbor. And I'm not sure quite how we miss all that. I think we do a great job. The devil is a liar. Hallelujah. So yeah, we gotta rebuke it. But yeah, loving our neighbor now. I think there are a lot of people though that are just rising up, right? They want to see a faith that is engaged, a faith that cares about welcoming immigrants, a faith that cares about um, children dying. I mean, killing kids is wrong. I mean, it shouldn't be that hard, right? The folks that
Yeah,
are going, I never thought I would have to convince my fellow Christians that bombing a school in Iran
I
is
know.
evil and wicked, right? Lord.
Jane, Jane, we are, some call it a moral inversion.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why people use this language. I mean, what do you want to call it? Collective vertigo, shared derealization, national disorientation. This is why a lot of people show up on Sundays at our place, Shane, and they're going, hey, all they're looking for is a little bit of anchoring and grounding, going, did you see that?
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
saw it.
That's it.
And let's just be clear, that ain't right.
That ain't right. That ain't right, bro. We're going to keep talking for the podcast, but tell people how they can follow you and if they're in the Atlanta area, how they can visit, Vinings Lake, man.
Oh yeah. So on the socials, just Cody Deese, CodyDeese. And that's like Instagram, TikTok, whatever. Facebook is all on there. And
The
then our
things.
church is Vinings Lake, Vinings Lake. So you can just go to viningslake.org. But we're actually just north of Atlanta in a little town called Mableton.
So we get to keep talking. Now we don't have to worry about time at all. I'm glad for y'all tuning into the podcast here. We do for those of you that might be listening for the first time, we do a radio show. And Cody, it's like premier radio. It's 5 o'clock on Sunday afternoon in the UK and airs in other places and whatnot. So it's nice that we have that slot, but it sometimes it feels a little confining because I mean like 25 minutes with Cody Deese just flying by. So when it comes to the creativity, let's get back to that a little bit. This
Yep.
prophetic witness, there's some beautiful stuff happening, right? I mean, all
Yep.
over the world, but the No Kings protest, the biggest protest we've ever had in U.S. history. We see Minneapolis rising up. And I mean, I was in a group that was listing about 20 different beautiful expressions of creative resistance in Minneapolis, everything from, signs posted that say, no matter where you're from, we're glad you're our neighbor in multiple languages, whistles. And now they got the car fobs that you can set your car alarms off when ICE is in the neighborhood. So you don't even have to go outside, like just ways that folks are accompany other people's children to schools and church, folks that are out of their maybe privileged position as white folks are able to stand um, has security outside of churches that speak other languages where people might feel threatened by us. And they just keep going and going. And the singing resistance, there's circus arts. I mean, the Portlandia out there doing all kinds of crazy stuff in the face of tear gas, dressing as frogs and whatnot. I mean, it's all quite beautiful, right? It's all quite lovely. And it also is got that prophetic imagination, right, in it. So, yeah, man. What else? What else can we lean into in this beautiful prophetic tradition? And where do you see it happening?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm inspired by the people that have gone before us, and even in this moment, I mean, it is tempting. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, a healthy spirituality is an honest one. Sometimes you look at our situation, and it's tempting to mirror what we're seeing.
Yeah,
And isn't that the great? I mean, that's the story. Is the temptation's always been to try to take up arms, and this is what Paul writes about. This is what Jesus talks about. That's not going to work. It's just, and that's the thing about it. It just doesn't work, right?
and battling the beast, we become the beast. Yeah, you got to
That's
watch it.
exactly right. And so that's the temptation. And but what's happening right now is you're seeing so many people just rise up and just give so much creativity that is just inspiring. But I mean, I go back to the Bible. These guys, I think sometimes we forget about the historical context that these people are writing in. I mean,
Mhm.
these words didn't fall from the heavens. Like, I mean, these words were carried in exile, written in prison.
Mhm.
They know something about having the boot of empire on their neck, being
Yes.
crushed. Sometimes I think we read these things like, oh, isn't that inspirational? I'm like, these people's lives were
Mhm.
literally on the line. And in those moments, they were being as creative as they possibly could be and not mirroring the empire they see. I mean, even think about, Jesus. Yesterday we talked about Jesus flipping tables. This is a great example. Like, I mean, there's something really inspiring about that moment because think about what he does. He goes into this temple and he starts turning the tables, but then the text says he taught them, right? So he teaches them, and then he quotes Isaiah 56 and he quotes Jeremiah 7. Now think about what he's doing. This is where the inspiration is for me.
Mm.
What are both these saying? Isaiah 56, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all, right?
Mm.
Now, in context, that's the climax of like a hymn from verses 1 through 8 that Isaiah is doing. And it's Yahweh promising to the foreigner and the socially marginalized that his house will be a place of joy for all who are disposed. So he's talking
Mm.
about inclusion in that moment, right? And he's standing in the court of the Gentiles right outside of the temple, right? Then
Oh,
he
we're
jumps
getting
to,
into it now.
then he
Yep.
jumps to Jeremiah 7. Jeremiah 7.
Mm.
But you've made it a den of robbers.
Mm.
So Jesus is quoting Isaiah the prophet. So he's already getting his inspiration from the prophets who come from him. He's in a long line of prophets. Then he jumps to Jeremiah 7. And here's what's so interesting about that den of robbers. You know this, but Jesus wasn't just like critiquing bad policy at the temple. He wasn't even just critiquing, economic exploitation, although that was certainly happening. He was exposing a system that had learned how to hide injustice behind religious language.
Yes, Lord.
Think about
Mm.
that. It's not that wrongdoing is happening inside the building. It's that the building had become a hiding place for those who were doing wrong.
Yes. Mm.
Religion in that moment was laundering violence.
Mm. Mm.
And here's the thing. When Christianity becomes the soundtrack for empire, Jesus did not stand back and talk about how to go to heaven when you die.
Mm. Mm.
He flipped the table. So when bombs fall on children
Mm.
and leaders gather in front of cameras to pray for God's blessings,
Mm.
that is not faith. That is religion being used as cover.
Yes. Mm.
And we have to ask ourselves in this moment, as Christians, as followers of Jesus, a very dangerous question. Are we protecting the tables that Jesus would have flipped?
Mm. Mm.
So there are some tables we sit at, and there are some tables that we need to flip.
Yes.
May we know the difference between the two.
Hallelujah. Going to church this morning. You thought you signed up for a podcast, but we're
Well,
going to
think
church
about
this
think
morning.
about it, Shane. Let's keep going
Yeah.
for. I mean, let's just think. We need to expose what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And you've noticed this since the war has taken place in Iran. There has been a significant rise in religious language.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear it, you see it. Think about Pete
I
Heck.
mean, you can't even make this stuff up. The blessing of bombs and the way that it's, I mean, they're even using Bible verses in the recruitment videos for the
Yeah.
military and I mean, this is some serious principalities and powers that are being seen. And so go ahead. Yep.
Well,
Just
I mean,
agreeing with you.
a part
Saying
of that
hallelujah. Yeah, help us, Lord.
part of that isn't new, right?
Yeah.
I mean, history has shown us that all over. Crusaders claimed to fight for Christ. Colonizers invoked Christ while conquering land. Slave owners quoted scripture. I mean, so you're seeing something that's being repeated over.
History rhymes. Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
So all of that said, though, you think about what's happening. I mean, Pete Hegseth, quoted the book of Psalm. Bless us, Lord, who trains our hands for war, right?
Mm. Mm.
Then you have an image pop up after the school was bombed of Trump in the Oval Office with pastors gathered around him.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, Jesus said pray in the closet, but they're like, well, we need a photo op. Let's get it in the Oval Office. Paula White, Robert Jeffress. I mean, you think about the religious leaders that were gathered around him in that moment. Now, hear me. I'm not against praying for the president. I pray sometimes. I'm not going to say I pray a lot for the president, but I do pray for the president, and
Hmm.
I have very specific prayers. I pray he wakes up, and by
Hmm.
wake up, you can call it whatever you want to, salvation, whatever. But I pray he wakes up. I pray he grows up, and then I pray he steps down to give himself time to clean up what's inside his soul. Now, all that said, I'm not against praying for the president, but there are moments in history when the faithful response is not another prayer circle around powerful men. it's flipping the tables that they're gathered around.
Mm, mm.
There are moments when the most spiritual act is not saying amen, it is saying enough, enough.
Enough
And
men.
and
Yeah.
here's the thing.
Yeah.
Prayer can become, it's a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
but it can be used as moral cover for injustice.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you see with the prophets. The prophets didn't gather around kings to bless their violence.
Mm.
These prophets gathered around and they confronted the violence. I mean, think about what Amos, uh, God's looking at the religious people saying, I hate your worship songs. I reject your festivals. Why? Because they were gathered, they were praying and singing while injustice continued under that name. And this is why Amos says, let justice roll down like water.
Mm.
And
Mm.
and you see it all throughout history. But I think in this moment right now, it's critical for us to call out what we're seeing, because there is a large group of Americans right now, and some of them know exactly what's happening.
Mm.
Shane, they're not naive. They know what's happening, and this is the hard one. This is why I tell my people, you have to have a space for grief, because some of them know what's happening, and here's what they're doing. Uh, they are okay with it. They're not blind to it. Some are blind. Some don't have it. Some are being greatly deceived right now. They're going, "Oh,
Yeah.
look at him! He's bringing prayer back to Washington. This is fantastic." And of course, there's no cognitive dissonance at all. Yeah, we bomb a nation and we love Jesus. I see no
Mm.
problems between the two. Now there are some
Mm.
like that, but I think they're very few. I think many that I've encountered, they actually know exactly what this administration is doing.
Mm.
It's that they just approve of it.
Mm.
And it's interesting because in some ways it's like he's mirroring back to them the very behaviors they already excuse in themselves.
Yo, bro.
So,
Yo.
so they justify
Yo.
him because they're justifying themselves. They don't see a problem. They're going, yeah, what's the problem? We
Yo,
bomb people and we pray.
old Emil Durkheim. You know that name?
No, I don't.
Sociology. I'm throwing out my sociology here, man. Before Tony Campolo was my ministry partner, he was my sociology professor. And my work and my final years of sociology was around totemism. Durkheim's concept. I mean, he kind of encompassed all of religion under it, but he has a valid critique that you're talking about, which is he said what we often do. George Bernard Shaw said is, God created us in God's image, and we decided to return the favor, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
we project the things that we like about ourselves onto God, end
Mm,
up worshiping this incarnation of the best things about ourselves. Durkheim called it totemism, right? So
mm.
we project ourselves onto God rather than allow God to change us. Come on, that's what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
And that's why you have literally politicians right now in real time that are saying, well, if Jesus had just had an AR-15 instead of a cross,
Mm,
things might have turned out differently. That's when you know you are not worshiping the historic Jesus. You're worshiping the Jesus that looks like you, that you've created in your image, and that becomes an idol, right? Actually, a direct betrayal of the Prince of Peace, the Son of God, the Messiah that we see in Scripture. And Kristen Dumais, Jesus and John Wayne. That's one of the things that she said is, like a lot of people that you're talking about, they don't think that Trump is the savior of the world. They just wish Jesus was a little bit more like Trump. They like Trump's gospel better than the turn the other cheek, love your enemy. They'd rather kill the enemy. And that
yeah.
that becomes really seductive. And it's why I think so many of the prophets and through the New Testament too, we see like there's these people that come preaching another gospel, but it's no gospel at all. It betrays Jesus. So there are other forms of religion, and like you said, Jesus's harshest words aren't for the people on the fringes of the faith, but it's for the religious folks that are using religion to hurt people. They that's who. I mean, I look at that verse, when he's talking about brood of vipers, bro, when he says you go across land and sea to make a single convert, and then you make them twice the sons of hell that you are.
Mm,
Ooh. I mean, I'm not Jesus. I'm always praying that my anger would be purified and holy, like because I know his was, but like,
right.
oh, I mean, you can't miss that. nothing seems to offend God more than religious folks that are
Mhm.
using their religion to camouflage their hatred and bigotry and to exclude and hurt people in the name of God because God's reputation becomes on the line, right?
Yeah, that's it. I tell people all the time, just because it has the name of Christ doesn't mean it is the way of Christ.
Woo! Yes, glory.
And there is a distinction to be made in America right now. And my prayer, and I think it's happening, Shane. We see it. I see it in my own spiritual collective, our own church. But I pray that whatever is happening in this moment,
Mm.
and there is chaos, upheaval. Um, I I pray that people's eyes are open,
Yeah.
and that we'll see what it is we need to see in this moment. And I'm hopeful, as Paul said, one new humanity. I'm hopeful that a new humanity is being born out of all of this chaos.
Yes.
A
Say it
new
again.
politics, a new Christianity that is closer to the way of Jesus. Uh,
Yeah. And that's like that's what the revelation is about, right? The apocalypse was means to reveal and revelation is about revealing something and that's why the best reading of it is that the curtains being ripped away, the veils falling from our eyes. We're able to see something new and so it is a revealing time right now. That's also why I think it's a crazy thing that people can take something like woke and make it an insult. But we need to be awake right now. We
yeah,
need to have our eyes wide open right
I know
now.
it. I know it. It's always funny. And
So
I
yeah,
always laugh
help us,
too at
Lord.
my progressive friends because, first of all, anybody gives their own, they label themselves woke. I'm like, you probably not.
Yeah, maybe
And
don't use that
second,
word so much,
I'm
right?
like,
Yeah, but
I love the word, but also I like to
what's
use,
the opposite of woke? Yeah,
that's right. I like
daggum.
to use the word awakening. And a part of that is just because it's more present tense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yep.
Because I don't,
I like how Dr. King talked about sleeping through the revolution too, y'all. This is old stuff. You go back and read Dr. King and talking about let's not sleep through the revolution. Like this is a
yeah.
time we want to be a part of it. We want to be rising up. We want to bear light. We want to have some salt melting ice right now. Come on. So
Mm.
yeah.
Yep.
So, bro, I got two questions for you. I mean,
Yep.
we're going to do this again soon because you're so
Yep.
great and time's flying. But this book is
Yeah.
beautiful and it's about among other things anxiety, panic, and fear. And like, boy, what a good thing to address and name and also, honor the fact that people feel anxious and panicked and fearful right now. So, talk a little bit more about your new book.
Yeah. Well, a couple things here. First of all, it's discovering your internal universe. I mean, I have had anxiety since my earliest memories. And Shane, I don't know that we've ever talked about this personally, but I have lived with a panic disorder since my earliest memory, since I was a child. And so part of this book is just me trying to find some healing from my own panic disorder that came in a very peculiar, kind of weird, strange form. And that's what I'm doing through the book. But what happens is as I get into that and I start trying to figure out how to heal my anxiety, first of all, my whole understanding of anxiety shifts. But beyond that, I get introduced to what I call, which is the title of the book, my internal universe. Now, you can call it
Mm,
whatever you want to. People have, different words for it all the time. The soul, the subconscious, spirit, heart, gut, mind, the unconscious, whatever language you want to use. But it's that inner world of us. And I don't know of a greater message right now than encouraging, inviting people to discover their own internal universe. Think about what
mm,
James said. James 4, I think it's verse 1. What causes fights and quarrels among you?
mm,
Do they not come from your desires that battle within you?
mm,
So think about this. The chaos we're seeing out there is not separate from us. It is an amplification of us.
mm,
Um, what we're witnessing right now, in some way, Shane, is the unconscious or the internal universe surfacing, right?
mhm,
And then think about this: those with the most power magnify the most. So check it out. Here's what's happening right now. We are governed by people who never learn to govern themselves.
mm, mm,
Um, we are being led by people who never learn to lead themselves.
Mm.
And if you don't do that internal work, then what will eventually begin to happen is the inner chaos that's within you will not stay private. It
Mm.
scales, it moves
Mm.
out. So Father Richard Rohr said it like this. He said, what you do not transform, you will transfer, right?
Yeah.
Or you will transmit.
Yeah.
So the insecurities that are deep within some of our inner worlds, they end up becoming policies, right? Our wounds that we never heal end up becoming law. And that's discouraging but also encouraging, because here's the good news. If unhealed wounds can go public, healed ones can too. You
Yeah.
know what I'm
Come
saying?
on. It's
So
not
we
just hurt
can't.
people that hurt people, but healed people can heal people.
Come
Yep.
on. So we cannot build externally out there the world we dream of what we refuse to become internally.
Mm.
So I'm not saying you don't call out injustice. What I'm saying in this book is that we do both. We
Mm.
confront the corruption around us and we confront the contradictions within us.
Mm.
Because
Mm.
here's the thing, Shane. It's really easy for me to point out the racism in this administration, but it's really hard to point out how my own soul has been conditioned in white supremacy in America.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so part of what I keep teaching our people is we have to do both. We have
Mm.
to continually search within our own souls and heal the wounds and address the racism and address the desire for domination
Mm.
and supremacy. And at the same time, we also call it out when we see it in the external. And
Mm.
so that's in large part what this book's about. It's an invitation for people to go inward
Mm.
and explore their own internal desires and worlds, and then what has happened along the way, the wounds that they've received that they've never actually offered up to the divine to be healed from, that are
Mm.
still owning a lot of us and causing many of us suffering that isn't necessary, because it can be exposed and healed. And so that's a part of what it's written about. And the other part is, I mean, look around. Where do we begin? Bombs are falling.
Mm.
Uh, people are being pulled off the street.
Mhm.
Um, people are being gunned down in the street.
Mhm.
Not to mention what's happening globally, the Ukraine, uh, Sudan. I mean, name the chaos that's happening in the world right now.
Mm.
Um, so I would imagine your listeners know something about what it means to be anxious right now.
Yeah.
and
Mm.
and a part of this is just me being honest about my own anxiety, but then getting underneath it, because I went in trying to heal my anxiety, and what I began to discover is anxiety really isn't my problem. Anxiety was like a flare gun going off.
Mm.
So there's an old proverb, um, that says something interesting about the body, and I absolutely love it, because I think it speaks to our moment. It says, if you listen to your body when it whispers, you won't have to
Mm.
hear it scream.
Mm.
If you
Mm.
listen to your body when it whispers, you won't have to hear it scream.
Mm.
And that's part of my hope in writing this book, is I want to encourage people to listen to their own body. There's a reason anxiety is so prevalent right now in our culture. And my hope is that people will begin to take a deep dive and realize that there's lots of reasons it's there, but trying to get rid of anxiety is what I did when I went in, and then I realized real quickly, no, anxiety was the flare gun. It was the alarm going off, and all it was doing was protect me. That's what anxiety does. It just is there to
Mm.
protect you. It's kept the human species alive all these years. Um, and so anxiety is just screaming out, going, "Hey, something needs your attention. Get in here. Let's take a look." And here's the thing that I would encourage your people at: you don't have anything to be afraid of. Go in.
Mm.
I know it
Mm.
can be scary. Like, well, I don't know what's in there. Go in. Do Take some moments during the day. Um,
Mm.
get quiet.
Mm.
Explore your own soul. Figure out what's down in there. And what you may find is the cure to anxiety, if there is such thing, is actually inside the anxiety. And so the
Mm.
invitation is to go right into the heart of our biggest fears, go deep in it. And when we get inside, we'll see what we need to see, and
Mm.
we'll be able to heal what it is we need to
Mm,
heal. And there's so
mm,
much church shame about mental health and anxiety, Shane. Um, I talk about in the book. I don't think anxiety is not an indication of weak faith, but it might be an indication of toxic faith.
mm,
And I don't believe faith is like a cure to anxiety, but it
mm,
may very well be the cause for a lot of people's anxiety.
mm,
And I write in the book, I don't think anxiety and faith are necessarily oxymorons.
mm,
Um, I think they can sit together. And in some ways, they're both needed in the human experience.
mm,
Fear,
mm.
fear keeps us from doing dumb things, right? But
Yeah.
when fear is not properly integrated, it can take over the driver's wheel. And
Mm,
and so I talk about how to integrate fear in our own lives. And faith is the same way, right? So they both play these roles. And so my hope is that it, can help some people along the way that are living with not just, oh, I have anxiety every now and then, but as you read the book, you'll see this is like panic disorder level that has the potential to, and I don't use this word lightly, debilitate you.
mm,
And there are
mm,
people right now that's where they're at. And I'll just leave you with this: faith is not the absence of anxiety;
mm,
it is trust in the presence of anxiety.
mm,
And that's the invitation I want to offer in this book.
mm, mm. Bro, this is the book, y'all. Discovering Your Internal Universe, the unexpected good news about anxiety, panic, and fear. Cody's book. Check it out. Follow on the socials. Visit Vinings Lake. Chopped up a gun there, didn't we? We chopped up old AR-15, I think, or something
Man.
there a little while back. Man, we've got some good memories. I love that community. Send my best to your people, your 12 or 1200. I don't care what it is, as long as they're going deep with Jesus. And I know they are, man. I got to get back down there. But I'm so grateful for you. Thanks for being so generous with your time. Y'all, we can keep talking. That's why, hopefully you go away from this going, I want more. I want to listen more. So check out Cody's book. You can hear a lot of his teaching and sermons online too, and we're glad to be friends and to have him part of Red Letter Christians. Good to be with you, bro.
Shane, dude, I mean this. Love you so much, my friend. And
You
Katie
too, man.
Joe, and send my love to your boy. And can we just all, I want to speak on behalf of all the social media people. Thank you for every now and then sending us joy from your boy. Because
Joy from the
listen,
boy.
in the midst of the chaos, man, here's what you need to know. It makes me smile. My wife and I sit together and just grin. And sometimes we don't get a lot of that in our world right now. So your boy is
Oh
bringing a
man.
lot of joy to this world, and we're grateful.
Well,
Thank you, man.
thanks be to God. Yeah, bro. Talk soon.
All right.